The nights of Friday, June 27, 1969, and Saturday, June 28th, will go down in history as the first time that thousands of homosexual men and women went out into the streets to protest the intolerable situation which had existed in New York City for many years, mainly the Mafia control of the city's gay bar in collusion with certain elements of the police department in the city of New York. Hello. That's the title, and that's the front of the original manifesto that was printed the morning after the Stonewall Riot. So the Stonewall Riot happened Friday night, and Saturday morning this document was printed shortly thereafter. You might wonder why I have such a interest in the Mafia and the cops in the gay bars. Well, Dad owned a bar in Manhattan, and it was up at 7th Avenue and right off Central Park South in 7th Avenue in Upper Manhattan. And it was right next to the Century Theater and across from the New York Athletic Club and within a block of the Plaza and Columbus Circle. So the bar was pretty centrally located and right across from the, like I said, the New York City Athletic Club and a block up from Carnegie Hall. Not a schleppy neighborhood, to say the least. Well, he had worked in the bar for years and he had a burning desire to buy it, but he never had enough money. Well, suddenly this one night somebody shows up with the exact amount of money that he needs to buy the bar. My father, having absolutely no sense of who people are or what they're about, goes into partnership with this guy. They go into partnership, and the day they sign the paper, suddenly the mob is in the place. So let's get my picture up here. Here's a picture of me. That's me. I'm the short one in the picture over there, and that's my father on the left, on the right side of the picture, and the shorter man is Joe Barrett, and that's his wife. So this is the day after they signed the papers and bought the bar. And like I said, the day we bought the bar, suddenly 3-4 of these Goomba gangster guys start coming in and hanging out in the booth in the back near the phone where they would take book. And book means they were taking bets on the horses or on any sporting event that was happening in or around New York. The mob and the gangsters used to be bookkeepers before the creation of the lottery system. And with the lottery system, the mob was able to move into legal activities, and you'll find in most cases that they're skimming about 5% off wherever it is that they're putting money, like say it's the school system. You'll find out that before the money goes into the school system, the mob is skimming money off the top of it. And this is going on all over the country. So that was one aspect. So anyway, he's in bed with the mob, and the mob is, one of the reasons they wanted the bar is it was right across from the New York Athletic Club. And the players would come in. So all the players would come in from the baseball team, the football team, the hockey, the basketball. They would threaten these guys to shave points. They would threaten to break their legs. And I'm talking Mantle, Maris, Berra, the whole dream team of the Yankees, of which I had a signed baseball at one point. They threatened these guys to shave points. Not throw the game, shave points. That was one reason they wanted the bar. They had a long-term goal for the whole block. They wanted to get all the businesses on the block, tear them down, and put up an apartment. That's what they do. The mob is heavily into the construction business in New York, and they like having apartments that they can flip around, which is why that's a whole other story, but it's got to do with the death of New York City, which we are witnessing right now, and it's got to do with vacancies in these buildings. But having said that, so they owned the bar for these 5 years, 4 or 5 years. At the end of the period, suddenly Joe Barrett disappears. Well, it turns out he hadn't been paying the taxes, the federal taxes. Well, the feds show up and they want the tax bill. Well, we owe more on the tax bill than the bar's even worth by this point, because no federal taxes were paid for the entire time Joe was the bookkeeper. Dad was the worker, Joe was the bookkeeper. So the mob, who is very familiar with us by now, we're with them regularly, they make him literally an offer he can't refuse. He signs the papers over to them, and they're telling him that they're going to pay off the tax bill. Well, they never pay off the tax bill. They now have the bar. And the next day, it becomes a gay bar. They turned into a gay bar. Well, Dad was like, could not believe that his really classy, upscale, fancy little cocktail lounge on Central Park South has suddenly become a gay bar. He is outraged by this, but he never understands what happens. And it took me years later to figure out exactly what had gone down. The mob owned every gay bar in Manhattan. And the one thing that this manifesto is leaving out, let's put the manifesto back up again. Let's get the, let's see if we can get the whole thing up there right now. Where are we? And here it is. There's the whole manifesto. So that's the whole manifesto, what it looked like. It was one page. It was a one-page document that was printed the next morning at the Village Voice, which is a local newspaper which has just been reconstituted, the Village Voice. So what's going on is the ABC, Alcohol, Beverage, and Control, are the ones that set the parameters for the liquor licenses in Manhattan. And in their writings over this like 20-year period, between the 50s and the 60s, on and off, depending on who was mayor, how much the social pressure was, these laws would change. But during most of the period, it was against the law for a gay person to be in any bar in Manhattan. If they were in the bar, they could shut the bar down for immoral activities. So no gay bar was given a liquor license. So they were all operating under the radar, which meant they were subject to police controls. So the bar could be threatened by the police. It was the police and the mob were colluding. The mob was filling the bar up with their own unlicensed, untaxed alcohol, unlicensed, untaxed cigarettes, and the jukebox was filled up with their records. In addition to that, the alcohol that they were serving, in addition to being untaxed and unlabeled, was also watered down. So you were paying more for less in the bars continuously. So that they were making a fortune in the bar. Colluding with the cops would come into a bar in a neighborhood. Let's say there weren't that many gay bars in Manhattan in the 50s. There were maybe a dozen, not 2 dozen even. And they would be in different neighborhoods. So it might be one of the East Village, the West Village, the Upper East Side, the West Side, Midtown. And they would go into one of the bars in the neighborhood regularly in order to let all the bars in the neighborhood know that they were still doing it and they wanted their payoffs. So the payoffs used to happen, the cops used to go in on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday when it wasn't very busy. Well, what happened was in the 6th precinct, which is where the Stonewall Inn is in the 6th precinct in Manhattan, and they get a new brass shows up in the 6th precinct. And he's not happy with what's going on. Because what's happening is the uptown cops are coming down into the village to downtown and doing the shakedowns. Well, he said, well, what's going on here? This is like 2 blocks from our precinct. What are these uptown cops doing? I'm going to go in and get the payoff. So this bozo goes in on a Friday night, no brains. The place is packed. Usually the places are empty. There's very few people there. Well, Friday night, the place is packed. There's a front room and a back room. All of these gay bars have a back room where even more nefarious activities are going on. So they go into the back to get the payoff. So the cops are here. They go into the back to get the payoff. And I'm not sure exactly whether it was a gay woman or a transsexual guy, but somebody with a dress on jumps up and said, I'm sick of paying these cops off. We're not going to do it anymore. And boom, that's what started the riot. Right then and there. They never should have gone in on a Friday night, but they did, and that's what started the riot. So this guy calls the precinct to get help. And the precinct blows him off because they don't like that he's the new brass, that he went against the rules, that he did this. So they put him off. He winds up literally barricaded in the bathroom of the Stonewall for over an hour. It's got bars on the back window. You just can't get out. While the front window of the Stonewall is getting a plywood barricade. There's a whole riot going on, and it takes the cops over an hour before they send a paddy wagon or a bus, which it turned out to be, to arrest the rioters. By the time they get there, though, the riot has been going on for a while. So the cops show up, and now there's thousands of people literally in the streets. And the street is very much like, it's like Europe. It's like a European street. There's sort of a center a square here, and then all these blocks shooting off from it. So what would happen is the cops would chase somebody down one block, think they got rid of them, and they would all go around the corner and come into the next spoke on the hub, heading back into Sheridan Square. I believe it's Sheridan Square. So this was going on for hours. The cops are chasing them down. They're running around, coming in another block. They're throwing beer bottles and glass. And this is going on for hours and hours. Finally, at the early hours of Saturday, they finally break into the place and they start making the arrest, and they arrest a lot of people, and it makes the front page of the papers the next day. And within hours, the homophile youth movement of Manhattan puts out this pamphlet, Get the Mafia and the Cops Out of the Gay Bars, and the document you're looking at is a copy of the original document, which is why it's yellow, the actual written portion of it. And it goes on to say here, can anybody really believe that an operation as big as Stonewall could continue for 3 years a few blocks from the precinct without having a liquor license? No, it couldn't. So none of these gay bars had liquor licenses. They all paid off the cops, and the mob was in on it with them, and the ABC, Alcohol, Beverage, and Control. So that's my little Stonewall story for the day. It's today is the anniversary of Stonewall. I did this story last year. I wanted to repeat it again this year. It's important, and the reason it's important is because here's the mob involved with the cops. Now, as I grew up, I was exposed to this. So my initial impressions of organized crime, organized law enforcement, were not exactly very, I didn't exactly have a great opinion of them. And what I saw was the Richie Riches basically hanging out and having a marvelous time with all the amenities that the city had to offer. And the mob, and they would be in bed with whoever they needed to be in bed with to keep that money flowing. So I know from experience that these Goomba gangsters were sitting right next to the very chic, very Presbyterian financiers who would go to Carnegie Hall for a show. You couldn't tell the difference between the upper and the lower class gangsters. Well, to go back to the original part of the story that I said they wanted the bar and they had a long-term goal. So originally, they used it to threaten the sportsmen and make money on their bets and everything. Well, over time, they then bought the florist next door. They bought the whole theater. They bought the horse stable around the corner. They got the whole block. If you go there now to Central Park South and 7th Avenue, you'll see a building. It's got a really nice curve, very pretty building, probably, I don't know, 20 stories, 25 stories tall. And through anecdotal conversations I've had with a few other people who live in and around that neighborhood, that building is loaded up with the kind of lawyers that Giuliani does business with, the three-piece suit gangster lawyers. The mob went from being street gangsters to being legal gangsters, real estate gangsters. If they can't get you with the gun, they're going to get you with their pen, as Bob Dylan said. So the Stonewall Riot was a result of that, and as a result of this, we now have the gay liberation movement. The first meeting was like a week after Stonewall. They all got together, and then they planned, and the next year was the first Gay Liberation Day parade. I believe it was in New York and San Francisco at the same time. So we got to where we are today based on this event that happened in 1969, and my roots for it go back to 1955. It's good to know your history. Peace, patience, persistence. We'll see you soon.